change my mindset. Do not be thrown offset. RUMERTIME reset. RUMERTIME. I choose to only think of thoughts. I choose to only think kind thoughts. I choose to only think right thoughts. RUMERTIME reflects. When my mind is upset, I can change my mindset. Do not be thrown offset. RUMERTIME reset. RUMERTIME. I choose to only think of thoughts. I choose to only think kind thoughts. I choose to only think right thoughts. RUMERTIME reflects. When my mind is upset, I can change my mindset. Do not be thrown offset. RUMERTIME reset. Mind is upset, I can change my mindset. Do not be thrown offset. RUMERTIME reset. RUMERTIME.
All right, all right, all right, all right. Well, hello, everyone. How is everyone doing this evening?
Hello.
Welcome,
fine.
welcome. Yes, welcome,
It is
everyone.
so good to be back.
It is good to
So good
have
to be
us
back.
all back. Well, Vanessa is not here. Geneva is back. Let's give her some snaps that she is doing a whole lot better. And so we are grateful to have her
Oh,
back with us. Yes. So I
absolutely.
am,
So good to be
yes,
back.
yes. I am Dr. Yvonne
Yes, yes.
Maria. I'm one of the hosts of the Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast. And we are delighted. I know I say this every time, but we are absolutely delighted to be in the company of, I'm going to save it. So, Geneva, you want to introduce yourself? I'm going to cliffhanger. It's a cliffhanger.
Oh, good evening, RUMERTIME GC Score champions. I am Dr. Geneva Fleming. So glad to be back to join in the conversation today, and so excited to get deep in with our special guest today. So thank you for being here. If you haven't done so already, share the link with your friends and family. Ask them to tune in. And we're just going to have a wonderful conversation. And for those of you who are not new, you know how to submit your questions and comments in the chat. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Yes,
Bless
yes.
you. Laverne.
And I'm Laverne Shaw Bailey. I live over here in Fargo, North Dakota. The sun is setting already, so you can see that reflection in the middle of my face. I'm so excited to be back tonight, and I think you're going to be able to hear the stories and the experiences that our guest is going to share with us tonight. Welcome back, gang.
Yay. And so I wanted to say just a few words about our illustrious guest. How many of you have ever sat with an ambassador. You hear about it in far off lands, the ambassador to such and such, and you never have you ever had the opportunity to sit and talk and share tea with a real live ambassador? Well, guess what? You are going to be able to do that this evening. Isn't that amazing? So,
Yep, yep,
our
yep, yep,
guest is Ambassador Yolande Y. Smith. And I don't know if I can say her Y. It stands for Yvonne. So, anyway, so you are in the presence of an ambassador, and she is going to tell you some more about herself. So I want to introduce now Ambassador Yolande Y. Smith. Please let our listening and viewing audience know a little bit about who you are.
Thank you so much for inviting me to be on the podcast. And I am delighted, of course, to share my name with you. It is Yolande Yvonne. I am from Grenada. And for those of you who don't know, it's a tiny island in the Caribbean of 110,000 people. And we are known as the spice capital of the world because per capita, we produce most of the spices, the cinnamon and the nutmeg and all the things that makes your sweets and your pies so spicy came from the country where I was born. And I am the former ambassador of Grenada to the United States and permanent representative to the OAS, and I need to take a breath, the former non-resident High Commissioner to Canada as well. But putting all that aside, underneath that, I am a glam mama. I have 2 grandbabies. And I am Magdalene's daughter, and I'm just so delighted to be on the podcast. And of course, you'll hear more about me. It would only be on the things you want to hear, not what I want to say about myself. So I hope you'd ask questions that will bring that out. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right.
So we're in for a treat. We are in for a treat this evening. So let's begin our education segment, so we can let people know what GCC is about. So we are coming to the end of our 10th year anniversary, and we are celebrating our 10 years of being an official organization. And so we thank you for joining us this year in all of our activities that we had for 2023. We came into existence in 2013, and I can't believe it's already 10 years. And so we're going to be doing great things, even greater things, as we move forward in the next however many years that we have left to do this work. All right, moving on.
So we are at that time where we want to kick off our day, or I should say, we won't kick off our time without RUMERTIME prayer. So join me as I pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day and for this Access RUMERTIME Conversations podcast. We thank you for allowing us to be chosen to be here because we are special and we matter to you. We pray that you will help us to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions that are helpful, kind, wise, uplifting, and courageous. We pray that all who watch and listen now, as well as in the future, would experience renewed minds, transformed lives, and they would be empowered to create safer and more socially connected communities wherever they are. And it's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And of course, GC Scored's mission, and it's our everyday mission, and we encourage it to become your everyday mission to renew minds, transform lives, and create safer and socially connected communities.
All right.
Is social, emotional wellness and health. In the always undergirding it with the rumor time. And we recognize that social emotional wellness, a person's ability to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect are part of our acronym on their thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions as it relates to this threefold areas of self, others, and situations. Effectively using these competencies engages, equips, educates, and empowers individuals of all ages, locations to successfully navigate their daily activities, such as loving, learning, relationship building, problem solving, and adapting to the demands of growth and development.
Awesome. And the RUMERTIME process, you see, it is in a cyclical, a circular infographic. And that is because it is a neurocycle. It's a neurocycle, a 5-step neurocycle, culturally responsive problem-solving strategy that is used to engage, educate, equip, and empower individuals to move from inter and intrapersonal imbalance to inter and intrapersonal balance, and from unconscious living to conscious living. And so we at GC scored IMHERS, Institute for Mental Health Education, relationship strategies. We have our own definition of mental health. And what we view, GC scored views mental health from a social, ecological, cognitive, behavioral, emotional perspective. We believe that to achieve triadic balance, we must intentionally and consciously integrate the roots, such as relational capacity building skills, and the conditions, such as resources at home, school, work, and community, for healthy growth and development to occur. We interpret many symptoms, behaviors, feelings, labels, and diagnoses. We interpret these as fruits or outgrowths and manifestations of the activities happening at and around the root level of our experiences, our whether they are protective or whether they are adverse experiences. But these are what we consider to be fruits, outgrowths, and manifestations. And so, one of the amazing things that GC scored, we're so proud of one of the things that we are going to be kicking off in the first quarter of 2024. October 10th, we got certified approved to provide programming, training to prepare individuals to become board certified neurocycle trained coaches. And so we are so excited. It took a lot of work, but we got approved by the Center for Credentialing and Education to provide 30-hour training programs, 60-hour training programs, and 120-hour training programs. And we want you to reach out to us to find out more about this so that you can start getting ready to become a board certified neurocycle life and relationship coach. This is a major milestone for GC Scored. And it will be a major milestone for you, because what this does, it augments whatever skill set you already have. and it will not just help to decrease the gap in terms of mental health and the crisis that we're experiencing across the globe, but it will also increase your marketability. It will increase your financial resources while you are making a difference in the world. Okay, so this is something you really want to look into this. Like I said, our first cohort is going to be starting in the first quarter of 2024, somewhere between February and March. Okay, so keep us in mind if you want to make a difference in the world in terms of helping individuals live their best lives, live consciously, helping individuals to problem solve. We know that we have a major crisis, mental health crisis across the globe, not just with adults, but with also children and youth. Uh, you can think, all of us can think of someone who has taken their lives because they don't have the skill set to problem solve. What this program does, it teaches you how to do that so that you're not only equipped for you, you're not only educated for you, you're empowered for yourself, but for your community. And that community could be in your home, it could be in your school, it could be anywhere that you are embedded. You will have the skill set to be able to make a difference in the lives of individuals wherever you are embedded. So the information is on the screen. You can send an email to imhers at gcscore.org, or you can leave a message at our phone number 574-315-9981, and we will have that scrolling across the screen throughout the evening's program. Again, get on this, don't wait, because each cohort is going to have no more than 12 individuals. Okay, because we want to keep the classroom, we want to keep the classroom intimate, where we could really delve into issues surrounding our thoughts, our interactions, our mindsets, our emotions, as it relates to helping yourself and others. So there are going to be 12 individuals in the 30-hour course, 12 individuals in the 60-hour course, and 12 in the 120. We're not taking any more than that in our first cohort. All right. So we're looking forward to the phones ringing off the hook. We're looking forward to our email address, our email just being overrun with emails for inquiries. If you're not interested, I'm sure you know someone who would be. So again, please make sure you spread the word for us. All right. Thank you so much. Okay. So now we finished our education segment, which is critical because it helps lay the foundation for how we're moving forward in our conversations. So Ambassador Yolande, Her Excellency.
All those great titles that belong to
Her Excellency. I read this book. It is I was texting you and I was telling you, I didn't want to put it down. I really didn't want to put it down because it was so relatable. I saw myself as an immigrant myself in some of your stories, in some of the stories that you shared, and also the essence of how you was so passionate about mentoring individuals, about about giving back, about, that kind of confidence you had in your abilities, that your mom and your grandparents and the other women in your community, in your space, really poured into you, and
Yeah.
it just comes out of you. So what was it like? Oh, by the way, I love the cover. I love the cover. All of what I just said, I saw it depicted. It was the overflow, right? That picture is the overflow of that, what people poured into you.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
Yes.
If you saw that, then it means then that I am living from that
And
place. And that's how we have to always continue to live.
absolutely, absolutely. So how did you what made you put pen to paper to share so much of yourself?
Ah, and it's a tough one because you think you're in a public place and people know everything about
Mhm,
you, and that's because people think they know everything about
mhm,
you. So they want to write a narrative that is not yours or that you have not given them permission
mhm,
to
mhm,
speak. And I thought, and now my brain is going crazy because you know how I think. But there are two questions there.
mhm,
And I could not have written this book
mhm,
5 years ago. I can't write that book 2 years from now.
mm,
And maybe there are different books in
mhm,
me because of my vocation and because of different things. But that book I had to write because it came from a place, as the title says, reflections.
mhm,
And in my reflection, it's almost the truest sense of me.
mhm,
And that's what I felt called to give at the time I was writing that book. And it didn't take me more than perhaps 4 or 5 days to write it because it was just my thinking on paper. It's not the book I people expected me to write,
mm,
because you said I'm an ambassador and I did all, and people expect me to write on foreign policy
mhm,
and international affairs and things like
mhm,
that. But I wanted to write a story that would tell any little girl in any part of the world
mhm.
that you don't have to be born into something. You can aspire towards
Oh
something.
yes.
That right there.
Yeah.
And I feel, how can I live? How can I become an ambassador? How can I become so important
Mhm,
and I am not giving information on what got me from here to there? So the title of the book could have been From Here to There. It could have been all other things.
mhm,
But in those stories, it was how this girl from Stone Street became
hmm,
ambassador, and not just the ambassador like she was plunked down there.
yeah,
So that was really the genesis of it. But it came from a place of deep reflections
yes,
mostly.
yeah.
Yeah.
What was
Oh,
at the
oh, wow.
what was the impetus for the reflective season?
I was in transition.
Okay.
I was in transition. And a lot of us find ourselves there and don't know what to do with
All
it.
right.
You panic
Mhm,
because what sets in is like fear.
mhm,
And oh my God, I've been doing this all along, and people expect me to be doing this. How do I pivot? And do I want to pivot? Do I have the ability to pivot? And fear sets in, or not just fear, but enthusiasm, because you think, oh, then the next move is this move.
mhm,
But I had to sort of calm myself
mhm,
and say, all these things are running around in my head. What does God want me to do?
mhm,
And I had to sit. And in reflecting, it was like going back
mhm,
and not like deliberately looking in my past and digging things up, but what in my past has got me to where I am now.
mhm,
And the fact that I'm excited about the future, what makes me excited about
mhm,
this future,
mhm,
that I don't know what it is, but somehow I'm excited about
mhm,
it. So, what are these things along that
mhm.
path that lead me there?
Yeah.
And I just had to reflect. I had to sit and I had to reflect. And in thinking about it, I'm like, okay, this is not just for me,
Mhm,
because the stories, you might realize, are very random
mhm,
and it's not chronological.
mhm,
So they were just the things that my soul needed at the moment, that I drew from,
mhm,
that I didn't even remember were there, but somehow those were the moments of strength
Mhm.
that I needed to just tap into again before I go on. So I think that's the only way I can
Right.
explain it.
So thank you. So I
That's
want I
true.
want to I want to I want to
Yeah.
say something to tie up that, right? So the listener could and viewer could get some. I want them to get a nugget, and that nugget I want them to get, in addition to what they will get on their own, is embrace the transitions.
Mhm.
Do not be afraid of transitions, and transitions will come.
They will.
And you also need to define how you show up in those transitions. And the transitions are also preparation for the next season. So
Yes.
don't allow, this is what I'm getting. Don't allow your emotions again to drive. Don't allow
Hmm.
your emotions to be in the driver's seat during transitions or any other time. And like I talked about
Yes.
earlier, one of the things, GC scored, one of the things we say, one of our quotes is that feelings, feelings have no intellect. They are directly related to your thoughts and your experiences. In addition, we also say feelings are like fire alarms, smoke alarms. They are messengers. They show up
Hmm.
to tell you something. They show up to give you a message. They show up to say something's going on. And
Right.
what you want to do is what you did. You sit and reflect what and ask the feelings the question. What are
Hmm.
you here to tell me?
Yes.
Right? What are you here
Yes.
to tell me?
Because it's almost like I know you before. I know you from
Yes.
somewhere before.
Yes.
Why are you showing up now?
Yes.
Why are you showing up now? So you have to sort of
Yes.
recognize it, and as you say, sort of speak to it. Why are you
Why are
here?
you here? What do you want to tell me? And we
Yes. And listen. Be prepared to
Don't
listen
don't
too.
yes
gloss over it.
Be
to
prepared to
listen.
listen. Because sometimes we think we want to know, but it's like, can you handle the
You
truth?
handle
Eh?
the truth.
Because it's
Whoa.
like
Oh.
you're showing up as fear, or you're showing up as excitement. And I knew I was excited before, but I was let down. I knew I was afraid before, but once I
Mm,
stepped out of that, I saw something glorious. So it's like,
mm.
what are you here for this time? I know
Yes,
what you were in the past, but what are you here for this
exactly,
time? It's
exactly.
important. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I
I
am
know.
bursting at
Yes.
the seams to ask this question. You got one more thing to say, Dr. Yvonne?
Go
Because
ahead, go
based
ahead.
on based on what the conversation, how it's flowing right now, and based on what Yolande just said,
Hmm.
the question I want to ask is, you at the beginning of your book up front, you mentioned about, your journey, taking this journey. And my question is, what did you recognize and
Mhm.
understand about yourself and your situation that made you make that major milestone step back in 1994?
Yeah.
And reading that was impactful for me. But I just want to hear, what did you recognize and understand about you and your situation that made you take that step?
Thanks. Thanks for
And
asking
share what
that
the step
because
was. Share what that step
okay.
was.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to your emotions and it goes back to fear. But for me, it was ambition. It was ambition, and it was also knowing that I had much more in me than can be manifested if I stayed where I was.
Mm,
So it was comfortable. I had a good job. I had my external family, my aunts, my mom, everybody around me. I had my daughter. I had, back in the day, I was working with the airlines, and that was a good
mhm.
job. If you're working in a bank or you're working with the airlines, that's considered a good
That's right.
job. Looking back now, I'm thinking about it. The salary wasn't that great, but at the time, you could get dressed up and you walk in town with a uniform and you were it.
Yes.
But I saw myself, I saw all my other friends around me just as somebody with a uniform. in a good paying job because we had education. But I saw myself beyond that. And I'm thinking, if I want to do this, whatever that was at the time, I couldn't stay here to do it. I
Yes.
couldn't. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I needed to go in order to
Yes.
do it. And for
Yes.
me, I wanted to become a lawyer. And the reason why I wanted to become a lawyer, because at the time I was doing youth work and I thought of advocacy. And I'm thinking you have to have a voice, but you have to be respected. So you almost had to be credentialed. You had to have all these things in order to do what I thought I wanted to do. But it was always about advocacy. It was always about making sure people had a voice and making sure that people's rights were respected. So I thought becoming a lawyer was the only way to do that. And I saw myself as that advocate. And it turns out that maybe I was doing that when I finally became an ambassador. But I thought I needed to be a lawyer. And of course, it's the long meandering journey. And I that got turned around. And I was open to having it being turned around as well. Because I'm thinking, the journey is that end place there, and I may think this is what would get me there, but as I go along, I see avenues open up and think my mindset becomes more open. It's like, you don't necessarily have to be a lawyer. You have to be educated. You have to have influence. That, and then I'm stepping into those things as well. So I'm not just pigeonholing myself, but I'm stepping. I see an opportunity. Think about it, ruminate on it.
Rumorize it.
And I'm thinking, okay, then that's it. And I keep going. But you have to make that first step. And for me, I didn't see many people around me doing that. But that didn't stop me from saying that you can do it. Because I came from a household that didn't have much, but they never stopped you from dreaming.
Right.
So if I imagine it as what needed to happen, then there was no way I wouldn't act on that. So that is what I did.
Yes.
As simple as that, and not knowing very much more than that.
Absolutely. It is as if you mastered where you were.
You understood yourself as a dreamer.
So much more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying. So
no, I thought I had another voice.
Yeah, I was just saying you understood yourself from age to be a dreamer. That was something you knew about yourself.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And it didn't even start with that migration. It was just even when I was probably about 6 or 7. And imitation, sometimes we don't give credence to a child wanting to imitate things that adults are doing that make them. And I just did that. I saw things around me and I didn't see limits. I didn't see age limits. I didn't see gender limits. I saw possibilities in things as silly as it was at the time, like singing in a choir. I saw adults singing. I couldn't sing, but it just made sense that maybe they need kids to sing. So I had that precociousness about me that at the time, I didn't think of it as anything special or anything different. I just thought, well, that's what's people. If you're that curious, then that's what you do naturally. So that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Can you tell us?
I hope I answered your question. That I gave
you
enough.
You dare to follow your dreams. It's beautiful, and I believe
not
knowing.
I think we spend a lot of time on the what ifs. What if this doesn't happen? All the assumptions that we take so much time doing. And mine is more or less, I will deal with it I'll cross that bridge when I get to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of us get bogged down in just the assumption phase.
Yeah.
And it paralyzes you because there's so many assumptions and so many variables that you get paralyzed. Yeah.
The other thing that bogs us down too is if there is not an example, if there's not been one that went before us from our tiny community, right?
Yes.
The Bible says, can anything great come out of Nazareth? Was there a mold before, before the great master came through there? So yeah, it's that will hold people back if they cannot imagine beyond where they are. Yeah.
And that conversation goes into so many other things in society as well. Race and other things. You've never seen a Black woman as yourself as an ambassador. So you have that dream and you want to squelch it because what am I thinking? I can't be. I've never seen another, things like that.
Why
So
not
you have to
me?
almost, yes, you have to go
Absolutely.
outside of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of those
Yolande, can you tell us-
paradigms.
Yolande, can you tell us a little bit about the pageant story? Because I feel like there was a lot of dreaming involved in your pageant story.
Thank you for asking. Well, it it depends because the reflection on that one for me was I always that person who was not afraid to stand out. And that was it. And at the time, I know I was standing out. I could have come across as being obstinate, but I wasn't afraid to be different. And it took me all these years to realize that is one of my strengths. And sometimes we're afraid to own our strengths, and there's nothing wrong with it. And even if it takes a long time and it comes back in a story like that, because I think I'm gorgeous.
You are.
Yes, you are.
You are absolutely gorgeous.
And thank you. And I've always felt pretty because you're socialized into thinking. I've always felt pretty, but you're not the only pretty person.
Right.
That's right.
And I was pretty, but I wasn't into fashion and glamour. So I came up against girls who were pretty, but fashionable. And then I had to dig in myself and say, they're probably fashionable, but they don't have a platform. They don't have a passion that can impact lives. So I have that on them. And I know I can go on that stage. I can rock a dress like everybody else, but when I open my mouth, that is where the distinction is.
Right.
So all these things I somehow knew, I articulated it in my goings-ons, but in my mind, I didn't know that they were strengths that I could fall back on in different things, not just in a pageant now, but in a job setting, in interviewing or in competing for something else that is much more than just a title as Miss Grenada. But in reflection, I realized, gee, that's a strength. And that had gotten me through 1, 2, 3 things, 10, 15 years after that pageant. But at the time, another thing for me was how I handle competition and how I handle myself in a team in a greater sense. Because it was tough, but it was rewarding because not that I elevated myself above people, but I found a way to dig myself so that I came out on top. Because I wasn't a shooter. I was not. But I knew there were things that meant something, and that if you stand your ground, people would respect you. At the time, I don't think anybody respected my decision to say, I'm not going to wear makeup because it is not me. And I don't think you should tell me who my chaperone would be, because my idea of a chaperone is somebody that you have a rapport with, somebody that you would trust, somebody that will give you honest feedback. And that's my mother. She's poor. She probably doesn't have a good wardrobe. She doesn't have all these things. But if I win this thing, that's who I want to share it with. And I'm going to put my foot down and say that. And it wasn't popular at all. And I'm sure that got me written off. But in reflecting again, those are the things that, you dig deep inside and you realize that, you can be grounded in just taking a stand as something as simple as that.
Yes.
And
Absolutely love.
And because what that also says is your self-awareness. You had a high sense of self-awareness, right? You were able to identify your strengths, your weaknesses, your limitations, your strengths, what you're passionate about, what you have. So you did an inventory of who you were. And to be able to do that helps you also then to have substance to reflect on, right? Because you you cannot reflect if you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
such an
No, that's
important,
true.
necessary
I,
skill.
Yeah, you can't reflect, because in reflecting is self-awareness.
Uh-huh.
yes. And
Yeah,
I
like
have learned a lot in the reflections. The book, it says stories for inspiration. I became inspired by reflecting.
mm,
Yes.
And I don't know if anybody wants to ask me that question, but I'll just answer it now. Coming from writing that, I I realized how much I relied on God, how much I relied on my faith. That was, if nothing else came out of that and nobody else is inspired, I was inspired by that. That through it all, like we talk about now, me thinking of my strengths in different areas,
Mm-hmm.
through it all,
mhm.
that's
That was the
constant.
constant.
And I don't know that I was aware of it as much as I should have
Mm-hmm.
been, else maybe I would not have, gone through or stressed about a lot of things that I stressed about,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I had a testimony and I've gone through things that may have been even, more tumultuous than that. But yet here I'm stressing about this little thing.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to reflect, to be at
Yes.
this place now where I probably won't have the experience of these emotions again, because the moment I get into a tight spot like that, I can say, girl, you got
Yeah.
this. Because,
Yes.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
because you have a,
I,
Absolutely.
I needed that.
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and that was evident, because at the end of every chapter, you had a prayer, or you had and that was so, I mean, because, I live my life like that. And to see an ambassador, you're not walking around beating people over the head with a Bible, or beating people over the head with a religion, or any of that kind of stuff. But the way you show up, you're not showing up alone. You're showing up in confidence. And some of that confidence is God confidence, right?
Yes,
It's not only self confidence, it's not only self awareness, it's God awareness, God
yes,
confidence, God strength.
Yeah.
And so
yeah.
that, it was like, she is not, she is not um shy about saying God is the one who helped me. And because,
And we have to get to that place.
yeah, and that is something I would tell you, that is something, when you work in this country in a secular or public institution,
Mhm.
you it's almost like it forces you to compartmentalize your beliefs,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
And so I have
People
gone
can see me
through,
as
yeah,
that.
I have gone through, uh, I am going through, but I'm on the other side of the journey now, where I am not apologetic
Mm,
about um, talking about what God means to me, because
yeah.
this is part of my story. Just like your immigrant
Mhm.
story is a part of you, my immigrant story is a part of me. God is a part of my story, and I'm not going to apologize anymore for that.
That, and we have to, because people see, I know people say to me, you're always smiling, or you're always happy, or you're always that. And they may think, well, because maybe I'm making a good salary, and maybe because I'm this, and maybe because I'm that, maybe I have this thing. No, I'm always smiling, because at the end of the day, I know that God's got this, therefore I got this. So
Yes.
I'm going to walk in there with a smile. I'm going to give
Yes.
this speech right now. I don't know everything about the topic. My research may not be deep, but I say that prayer before I walk in there. And so I smile and I open my mouth and I let it come out. And when I'm finished with it, I'm like, oh, that went well. And then I remember,
Yes.
oh, I prayed before that. I knew he got it. So even if they
Yes.
don't know it, they see it.
Mhm,
And now that I have the opportunity to say what it is,
mhm,
I would be remiss if I didn't say that is what it is.
mhm,
So
That's
sometimes we have a
exactly.
testimony, but we don't share it.
mhm.
And then it could be that the time isn't right to share it. And I think this was the time to share it. Because as you see, I can't go beating people over the head and say, you know, I'm smiling today. Do you know why I'm smiling? I want you to say, you're always smiling. You're always smiling. And then I can say why I'm smiling.
Yes. Like Mary said,
mean,
it's the God in me.
Yes.
I mean, there's just a fine line, because, you know, and it will be nice to have people who are not constantly shoving God in your face, because there are a lot of people who do that. And so if that is the approach that one is taking, it can be off-putting. So it's helpful when there are people such as the three of you who may be sharing that information, but not in a dogmatic, proselytizing, every time I talk to you, I'm going to have to help your relationship with God is doing, right? So we do need that balance, because so often, at least I'll speak from interacting with people who are kind of beating me over the head with their God life. And so it's beautiful to meet people who are not
religiosity. Yes.
doing that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But isn't it so pleasant to just be, to just let that character just shine?
Yes.
It's such a beautiful thing. You don't even have to mention the Bible.
I tell people every time, you have to show up as you and show up as authentically you every time.
Yeah.
And for whatever it is that people see, then they get to see that every time. So whatever it is. So if they make the connection or not, or you have to tell them, then they can just wrap that bow on it. But you're always that, on whatever that is for you. And I think that's what it is for me.
And so I want to go to page 33, where you said, I have two fundamental beliefs. The first is that God has a purpose for each of our lives. And the second, nothing is going to happen to our dream until we wake up and act. That part right there. Okay? Until we wake up and act.
If not, it is just a dream. It's pie in the sky. It's a nice to have what if down the road. But until you take that step and fail perhaps once, twice, three times, because that's something else that we don't always mention. You think, oh, you have this dream, and if you take that first step, it's going to become reality. Oh my God, no. No. In some cases, it may, but because you never know exactly what it will take, means that you have to step out on faith. But until you do, it's almost like asking somebody, can I have that apple? They can tell you yes or no. And I always say, if you don't ask, what if they tell you yes because you're hungry and you need that apple? What if they tell you yes? I never think about the no. Just what if they tell you yes? So unless you take that first step, nothing is going to happen. Nothing at all. And we have to remember that.
And so it behooves us then to, as the RUMERTIME would explain, is that there are thoughts, interactions, mindsets, and emotions. Interactions, actions, behaviors. So you can think it, you can believe it, you can feel it, but if you don't act on it, all you're doing is thinking, believing, and feeling.
Yes. And as my grandmother would say, you're spinning top in mud.
Spinning top in mud, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So even though you were not conscious, and this is what I want people to understand, every day we are living every day we are living the RUMERTIME way. All right, I'll say it like that. Every day we're living the RUMERTIME way. Now it behooves us to understand, to recognize, understand, manage, express, and reflect on what that is, so that you can wake up, as you said, and act and be empowered, so that you can not just dream, but fulfill those dreams. Because
Yes.
now you're aware, now you are conscious about it, now you're able to, you know, reach out to others, see who you can mentor, see who is mentoring you. And that
Yep.
takes me into the next phase of your, one of the things you're big on is mentoring. Laverne, did you get to ask your question already?
No, let's continue, Yvonne. Continue.
Okay. No, mentoring. I'm sure we'll talk about it or it will come back, but please
Yeah.
feel free to come back to it if
Yeah.
it wasn't answered at some point. But no, mentoring for me, because I think too, when I say it, people think mentorship is just that, senior to lower, somebody in your exact field, somebody that it has to be formal. You make that request and you wait for somebody to, respond to you, and you revere that person so much. And I try to make it so that it's organic.
Mm-hmm.
You see a young person that has potential, and sometimes we pretend to be blind because we're selfish sometimes. You see or that person either admires you, looks up to you. Sometimes it's on you to say, I see you see me. Let me find out what it is about me that intrigues you. Let me see what it is about you that perhaps that you see in me that I can talk to you
Right.
about. Because sometimes they're not, that bold to say, oh, Miss Yolande, this, that, and the other, but you see it in them.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's awareness
Awareness.
that you see it in that person and you make that step.
Mm-hmm.
Some would be bold enough and courageous enough to say, I want to do this in life. Can you help me?
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes it can just be lateral.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody, my mentors, I have two that are my age group that are female. I just totally admire them. We're in totally different fields, but I see what they're doing and I see how it can help me to do what I am doing better. So it's all around, and it could be organic, but it's important because sometimes I have seen, especially, that mentorship could be a lifeline for a young person.
Mm-hmm.
And not that they want you to tell them what to do, but if I sound it out, maybe she can. If I just approach her, maybe she can. Or if I just say it aloud and she hears it, just because she listens to it, I'm going back now and think about it even deeper and come up with my own solution.
Mm-hmm.
Just because she saw me. So mentorship is important because I've gotten that from people, and I've never really asked for it in growing up, but I saw people who took an interest in me
Mm-hmm.
and opened doors, not just flinging them open, but leaving nuggets and opportunities for me too.
Mm-hmm.
Your program I did when I was younger, it was the director of youth and sports doing it. But he saw my, enthusiasm and things like that. And he's like, oh, we're recording this program. You want to come by to do it? And then before you know it, I was the host of the program. But he saw the potential and he knew what my passion was. So we have to create spaces for
Right.
as well. And it's important. And if we don't do it, I think we're missing an opportunity to serve.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, I guarantee you, it's all about service. And it doesn't matter how lofty we think our dreams are. Because I always believe there's good in everybody, whereas people say there's a piece of bad in everybody. I think there's a piece of good in everybody. And I think most of our dreams and so somehow center around impacting others. Even if it's to get rich, I think as simple as that, oh, I just want to get rich. It probably should be able to help your family also. So I think there's always something good in whatever. So if you have that dream, you have to remember that hopefully it could impact somebody. And why not a young person that's gonna, take over from you and paid forward, and you have that perpetual, people helping people and people seeing people,
Yes.
because I feel they're not seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. About the way of going about it. But I definitely, I just feel if we have, especially as adults, if you have the opportunity to mentor a young person
Yeah.
and you pass, then I think it's probably, yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
a set.
So
And it's
that
such a
You
positive message to
speak
share with
this
young people.
really
Go ahead, Laverne.
there's a lot of feedback. You just seem like a beautiful person to be. There's a part in your book where you said you know how to take criticism and internalize it. And just listening to you with this, with what you do with mentoring, like that's so crucial for young people. I mean, for all of us, really, you know, that ability
Yeah.
to take criticism, but not internalize it. Do you have any examples that come to mind of maybe you did internalize some criticism, you were able to work through?
Oh yes, oh yes, and every day, because it's something that you have to be conscious about, because we sometimes we interject ourselves into it. So it could be something on the surface level that, oh, Ambassador, that time you did X, Y, and Z, and perhaps you could have done this. And right away, I'm thinking, oh, she's attacking me personally and not the situation and what could have resulted in a better result. So sometimes we have to not put ourselves in, and the person most times did not put you in it, but we do it. And we internalize it and think it is something that is about us. And that was not the intention at all. And then we take it out of sorts, and then you're thinking now, oh, then she doesn't like me, and it goes into a whole other zone that it had no right being. And I can just tell you, even in my reflections, and I said I wrote because I was in transition. I was transitioning out of a job. There was a change in government. And we know when there's a change in government, an ambassador is a political appointee. So if your party would have lost, then chances are a new ambassador would come and replace you. Sometimes it's a messy job. Sometimes it's not so messy and the transition is smooth. But during that time, I heard, so I'm going to answer your question directly, a time when it affected me. And I did take it personally, that well, these people need to just step down. We don't know what they're doing. We don't know why they're there still. It's a change of government, so you should just hand in your resignation. And I remember saying, it's like, how dare they? I've been doing all this. And I've been doing all that. And then I have to step back and say, you know what? It is not about me. And in them saying that, it really perhaps is about their lack of knowledge, their lack of understanding of me, their lack of not knowing me as a person. And so I would not take that personally, because if I do, then I'd probably just walk away from the job. And that was not in my MO, and that would not have been the right thing to do at the time. But I would tell you, I was very offended, and I took it personally that it was attack on me, attack on my office, and attack on my integrity. But I had to reflect and say, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. If they knew me, they probably would not have made that statement. So it's not about me. Yeah. But it could have changed the entire trajectory of how I ended in that season. Yeah.
So that's a really powerful point there. That's a really powerful point. How taking what people say about us personally can really change the trajectory of our future. Because then we might be prone to making rash decisions.
Yep. And blowing up.
And basically tearing down everything that you built up over the years.
because of one comment,
Yeah.
because of
One
one
comment.
piece of
Yes.
criticism. Yes, yes. So it's almost as saying, I got to give that person grace,
Yeah.
because if they knew me, they wouldn't say
Right.
that. Or if they knew the whole picture, not just me now at this point, if they knew the whole picture, they wouldn't say that.
Mm-hmm.
So let me step back from just, like throwing back punches, because that's it. That's it.
Natural
The
response.
easy way. And this is human. It's a natural
Yeah.
response. Yeah. Because you fire at me like that, and I immediately become angry. I become defensive. I become blind
Mm-hmm.
as well, because I'm not taking the time to see, well, that was a misguided statement. And well, that was undiplomatic. All the things that I can reason, and give that person grace. And I'm like, well, how dare he say that? I've been doing this all this time, and da 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 da. Well, that's it. I'm packing up and I'm gone.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm there a year after, serving, and in that service being recognized for all the other
Yes.
years. And had I picked up and gone, it wouldn't. And sometimes I say there's nothing that's a coincidence either. There are no coincidences. But just the thought there is that you can't take it too personal. You have to step outside and see, why did they even make that comment in the first place? You know? So it's sometimes it's not really about you so much, but it's about the other person.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the ability to live consciously, right? The ability to live consciously. A friend of mine says, this conscious living thing is not easy. It is
Yeah.
not easy, but it is rewarding, and it also is empowering, because
Yes.
you get to make the choices. You get to say how I am going to respond to challenges, how I'm going to respond to, idiots.
Deep
How
criticism.
am I
Yep.
going to respond? You get to
Yes.
choose. So the power is with you. People would say stuff all until they're blue in the face,
Yep.
but I still retain that power.
Yes. And it's not easy.
It's
It
not
is
easy.
not as easy as we say, because the natural instinct is really just to
Oh
fire off.
yeah.
So if you're aware of all these things and the emotions and what trigger them as well.
Yes.
And the triggers could be different from different time, or it could be your own bias against that person too,
Exactly.
and I may have heard it wrong, or it came out and I internalized
Yes.
it totally different. So it's all the things that you have to weigh. And they're just saying, when your grandmother say, count to 10 and do all these things, it's really for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
really for a reason,
Mhm.
because we can just take things out of context a lot.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, there are things that are genuinely fired at you as well.
Yes. Absolutely. So we want to thank Dawn. Dawn made a comment. Yes, humbleness before God. And she said, good evening. Good evening to you, Dawn.
Hi,
And
Dawn.
so, yes, so before we go, it's 6 o'clock. What is, I know, could you believe that? It's 6 o'clock. Could we, each of us, give one word or one sentence about what we want to leave with our audience?
I'll first. I really love the emphasis on self-awareness that you shared with us today, Yolande. And I really enjoyed your willingness to be real, right? To say, yes, sometimes when first approaching it, I'm a little not cool. But then I have that self-awareness, and that self-awareness allows me to choose now how I'm going to respond. And I really love it. And I hope that's something listeners and watchers will take this conversation.
Yeah.
Well, my final words are going to be one of our favorite quotes that was coined by our own Dr. Laria, and that is, in order to be effective, you need to be reflective.
Yeah. That's a good one. That's a good one. Who wrote that?
Oh,
Right? Who's this Dr. Laria we speak of?
Who is that person?
you did, like, how many years ago? 2016 or something like that?
Yeah.
Many years ago. Yes.
Wow, that's powerful.
So, Dr. Ambassador.
Um, ooh, gosh, I can't think of. Reflections.
Mhm.
It would definitely be reflections
Okay.
because you can be inspired or you can be empowered to inspire from your reflections.
Oh, that's a nice one. That's a good one.
great.
That's a good one. Yeah. Um, the power of rumorizing, the power of living consciously
Mhm.
allows you to determine your destiny.
Mhm.
It really does.
Mhm.
So I just this was a powerful conversation. Um,
Thank you.
I hope we could continue this conversation again sometime. But I appreciate, we all appreciate you. We miss you, Vanessa. Just in case you see
Yeah.
this another time, we miss
Yeah.
you.
Yes.
Um, and so we want to thank each and every one of you for joining us this evening. And those of you who are going to view at a later date, make sure you watch this because this is very inspiring and empowering.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and so we wish you, those of you in the US, we wish you a happy Thanksgiving. We're not going to be meeting again until December 10th. But in the meantime, we want you to go and get Ambassador Yolande Smith's book. It is on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Here it is on the screen. And we also want you to be thinking about our coaching program that we're going to be launching in the first quarter of 2024. The information is coming across the screen. Let us know. You can leave a message, 574-315-9981, or you can email us at imhers@gcscore.org. Have a great evening, everyone, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you very
See you
much.
again.
Yes.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Mhm.
I choose to only think of thoughts. I choose to only think kind thoughts. I choose to only think right thoughts. Rumor time reflects. When my mind is upset, I can change my mindset. Do not be thrown offset. Rumor time.
The RUMERTIME process, and I came across this quote: behind every behavior is a belief.
Whatever setting you go to, whether you're at church, whether you're at school, whether you may be having
I was
an issue
able
at home.
to analyze a little bit more.
Bringing about real positive
In order for me
changes.
to be effective, I have to be reflective. And this training
I gather an appreciation for reflecting. And I
take it from just something that's inside to getting it in a tangible form, getting it out from.
Fulfilling and rewarding to see the kids who coming and they sincerely growth in them. They became more reflective in their thinking, to see children grow and not just see but to be a part of it.
What I have learned in camp about RUMERTIME is that it's a process for solving problems we face in our lives.
A lot of my stress, and then I begin to enjoy and spend time on the things that really make me happy. And
recommend this training to all age, from kindergarten.
Before you do that thing that you'll regret, or say that thing.
If you breathe and think, you should have this training. I would recommend this to everyone.